everybody, I'm Amy, this is my wife Maggie, and together we are ThinkerThemer, and we are back from Tokyo Game Market Autumn 2024.
Yes, this is going to be the whole video of the games that we got.
We got a lot of games.
We did. It was one of those, I was like, oh, it's little games, it's fine, it's little trick taking, it shouldn't be, like, a backpack should be enough. No, foolish. We're fools to believe. This was our third time going to Tokyo Game Market. Again, this is going to be largely just around the hall. We're not going to go into the game market experience. We actually, being our third time, we're like, we know this. This is easy. And we did not. We made several mistakes. And so we actually are going to have a separate video of lessons learned, how not to be like us.
Yeah. So if you are thinking about heading over to Japan to go to either one of the game markets, well, go and watch that video. The link is in the description below, and that will give you some tips so that you can avoid some of the mistakes that were made this time around. But anyway, this video is all about the haul. We have over 40 games to talk about. The majority of which we purchased, and so we ran out of cash very quickly, and it was a very expensive trip unexpectedly because we didn't really know what we were going to be buying going in. So in the other video we talk a lot about that, but this time around we were like, let's just see what takes our fancy, and a lot took our fancy.
Surprisingly.
And then as inevitably you bump into other people that you know at a con, and they recommend other games to you, and so we're going to talk through just how these games came to be in our possession. There's a lot of quirky games. If you don't know about Tokyo Game Market, there are a lot of like small runs, so small publishers doing little runs of games, maybe only a couple of hundred copies. So some of these you might never see again. We're saying, and you're always looking for that little gem.
There's some that we're still looking for. That we every time we go to Japan, it's like maybe this will be the time that we find it at a secondhand market or somewhere. No, it's rare.
Yeah, and also, of course, most of them only have Japanese rules, and most of them are trick-taking games, and so it's a little bit challenging sometimes to work out what a game is all about. And when you're there in the heat of the moment, a lot of the time the artwork does the heavy lifting for you.
You're like, this looks cute. I have no idea how it plays. I'm just gonna get it.
Yeah. And this was one of those. I'm going to talk about this game first because it's called Horo Horo Elito, and it basically translates as moderately elite. And so you are this otter, and you want to go out and be a very successful business otter. But
as every otter do.
But if you become too successful, I believe the translation in the rule book was that you have to travel overseas for the job and leave your family.
Yeah, so you're going to be an MVP for your company, and they're going to be sending you around, and you don't want to be away from your family.
So you want to be moderately elite. And so in this game, it sounds a little bit like Schadenfreude if you've played that game, because in every trick you only want to come second and not first. And that's really all that I know about the twist of this game, but it was so cute that I had to pick it up. So that is Horo Horo Elito.
Nice. All right. What else do we have here? I have a lot of really little boxes, which I enjoy. So this is Revolve, which is from the same designer as Scout.
So excited. It's the follow-up to Scout.
Yes.
And I almost forgot to buy it. Because it wasn't, I put an exclamation mark on the map to go get it first.
Well, the game itself has an exclamation mark.
And then I completely forgot. So I got it last. I was just so lucky that they didn't sell out.
So tiny. I love it. So in this one, again, similar to Scout, you're going to have numbers on the top and bottom. So you kind of have two different orientations of the to play the cards. And you're essentially, from what I remember, because there's a lot of games, it starts
and they're all slight twists on trick-taking or shedding.
So you essentially have a couple of different options. It's a shedding type game. But what you're going to be doing is, for example, if someone plays a card, then if someone else plays a card that is higher, the person who played the lower card has to bring that back into their hand. So you're kind of having this sort of thing of the cards that you're playing down, they're often going to come back into your hand. You can also, instead of playing a card down, you can actually claim the cards that someone else has put down. The reason that will make sense is because it might give you a better option of something to play down later on. Because the other thing that you can do is you can do multiple cards of the same number. So when you're playing down multiple cards of the same number, so say for example do 3 cards that are a 5, if then someone else plays another 3 cards, again, they'll have to be a higher number. Like if they're a higher number, it's going to make me pick those up. But the idea is that you're kind of doing this thing. When you pick them up, you also have to flip them over. So that's the revolve part of it. So you're kind of also being mindful of like, oh, if I'm going to have to flip these, pick them up and flip them, how am I going to then eventually shed them? So I think it'll be like a really interesting flow of how that plays.
Can't wait to try it out.
Yeah, there you go. So that's Revolve.
And the boxes are so small sometimes.
Some of them,
sometimes. I was really expecting that to be in a bigger box, but because Scout got picked up by Oink Games eventually, and came in the bigger box, but maybe it came in that tiny box to begin with. Anyway, this one is a game called Take That Toy, and it is about cats trying to take toys, and it is a trick-taking game. It's by the designer of a game that's called, I think it's Bit Take or something, but I haven't played that before. But in this game, what you're trying to do is you're trying to be the first player to get 5 different suits in front of you. And the way that you're going to get those, which I think represent 5 different types of toys, and the way that you're going to do that is, of course, playing tricks. But you only get to keep the cards if you win the trick, and only if there's mixed suits in the trick. So if everybody plays the same suit down, you don't get to keep any of those cards, they get discarded. But yeah, as people are playing, they can throw in a different colored card, because this game, interestingly, is may follow. So that makes it even more interesting whether you want to basically give the person those cards or not. And because there's another thing that happens is as you collect the cards, you're making little stacks of each of the different colors. And I think it's once you go over 3 of any one color, you actually lose those cards. So it's going to be very interactive, because you can see that someone is collecting cards and they've almost got all 5 suits, but then they may have too many of one type.
Sabotage them in a way.
So you can sabotage them so they win that trick. So it sounds highly interactive, which I love in a trick-taking game. So I'm really excited to play this.
You love an opportunity to mess with.
Yeah. So this one is called Take That Toy.
Nice. This one is one that we have actually played this one. I think it might have been like when was that? Like at a Gen Con or a Dice Tower West or something like that. Someone had a copy.
Actually, it was at Essenspiel, and it was when we met up with our Joey fan, one of them had brought this along.
Yes. Yeah. So this is Road to Lord, where you are. It's trick taking, but the interesting thing is like you're trying to make offerings it's essentially to like get the king's be in the king's favor, so that then you get land in exchange or something like that. So what you're going to be doing is at the beginning there's a splay of different cards that show what is going to be the trump over subsequent rounds. So what is it that the king is really after, like what is it that he really truly wants, and so that becomes a trump. But then as you're playing, obviously if you're the lead player, you can lead with any card. It's must follow. So if I lead with, I think there's one of them that's like the wheat, then anyone who has wheat has to follow with that. But if the king maybe wanted the swords, which are representing the army or whatever, if someone wasn't able to follow and they can kind of break and play that trump, obviously that's going to then win. The interesting thing about this following mechanic, though, is that it's not just like, oh, you're playing whatever the highest card is. You can actually play multiple cards of that suit. So the next person could play 2 or 3 of those wheat cards, and the actual value is going to be essentially the sequence. So if I play a 3, a 4, and a 5, it's 345 would be the value of that I'm playing with. Having said that, the trump will still kind of trump everything. So the other cool thing about this is the way that you get points is if you win that trick, you're actually going to get points based on how many cards you played. So it's an interesting little balance. So that's Road to Lord, which, I remember enjoying when we played.
Me too. I think it's been really hard to find, but it must have been reprinted because we saw it in a lot of different places when we're in Japan this time. One that I have been wanting to pick up for so long now, well, it feels like so long, but actually it was in my most anticipated games of Essenspiel, so really not that long ago.
A couple months ago.
It feels like so long when you're waiting. But this is Pot Holic, and so this is coming out of Taiwan, and I believe it's David Cheng's first design, actually, and it is another trick-taking game, and this is going to be one of my all-time favorite themes.
That's a great theme.
It is hot pot themed, and you can even see it's got the split bowl there between the spicy and the not spicy. But essentially what you are doing in this game is, from what I remember, every round alternates between wanting to be the highest or lowest card. But the most interesting thing about this game is when you win a trick, the ranking of where you come in that trick. So if you came first, you get to choose one card from the pool. If you came second, you get to choose up to 2 cards from the pool. And they're all representing ingredients. And then you have a decision to make as to whether you are going to pick cards or you're going to eat the cards that you've already picked and put in front of you. And that's important because you can only store a maximum number of ingredients, but at the end of the game, the ones that are in your belly are the only ones that are going to count. So really cute. It seems super thematic. I just love the illustrations
artwork,
as well.
yeah.
Of all the little ingredients. Really cute. So that is Pot Holic.
Nice. What's another one? So this one is an interesting one that we picked up because I think we picked up some. This is called. I think the translation is something like. Is it like what is it? Something about couple time travel. I'll put it in a text underneath. So this is actually a cooperative game, 2-player only, where you're trying to then figure out, essentially as you're playing, you're trying to figure out obviously what the other person's cards are so that you can kind of meet whatever the different objectives are. This was one that wasn't really on our list. I think we were buying something else. I can't remember which is the one that we were buying. Was it this one here?
Yes, it was the designer's new one, but then someone recommended to us the old game, which was this one.
Yeah. And so, that's how we came across this one. Yeah,
it has a lot of Japanese text on the cards themselves, I believe. Is that what you were saying?
No, that's another one.
That's another one. Yeah. Okay, well, there you go.
Don't remember what this is called. I'll put it on the screen.
There's going to be a lot of exciting times ahead playing all these games and then going, that's not what we said on the video about the
not
whole.
At all what it was about. Yeah.
I'm going to remove the trick taking for a little bit to talk about this little game, which is by Charles Ward. So recently we covered a game called Sky Towers, which is a card game that we really enjoyed and featured on the channel. And we got to meet Charles because he actually lives in Tokyo, and it was just so lovely to meet him. And he gave us this copy of this game, one of his new games called Banana Boy versus Uni-Cone. And this game just seems like a game that is going to be a lot of fun as a filler. It is essentially memory, stay with me, and you're spreading out these cards and they all have different suits on them, but they also both, they're all double-sided as well. And so on your turn, you have to touch 2 cards at the same time and turn them both over. And of course, what you're trying to match is the image. So you're trying to get a full banana, for example, in which case you get to take both cards. But if you only match the suit, you get to take one of the cards. And of course, you're trying to take as many cards as you can. But I think it's going to be particularly challenging because there's images on both sides. And as you touch them, you have to say what's on there. So it'd be like Banana Boy and then turn them over. And that's meant to help everybody remember. But I feel like I'm just going to be absolutely terrible at this game. And the other little cute add to this game is when it's not your turn, you can put your finger on a card and reserve it. And then you have to stay that way. So you have to hold your finger on the card, but no one can take that card. But what's interesting about it is that means you've reserved it and it's going to be one of the cards that you're going to turn over. But if you were thinking, because I know I can match it with that one, if the person turns that one over, well then when you turn it back up, it's not going to be the same card anymore. So it's kind of like there's a bit of strategy there in anticipating what someone else is going to do.
Someone could then kind of hate draft it as well.
Exactly.
Before it gets back to your turn.
So it sounds kind of fun, a little bit of chaos. That is Banana Boy versus Uni-Cone.
Nice.
Not a trick-taking game.
Well, this is also not a trick-taking game. We actually got this one as a review copy.
Yeah. Actually, we met everybody at Iten Games, which was amazing because actually, being that most games in Japan, of course, are in Japanese, you don't get an opportunity to meet with many Asian publishers very often. So it was really nice that they, brought us over and they introduced us over to their booth, introduced us to, the designer of Tokyo Highway, who's, of course, is a very famous designer in Japan, and gave us, a little stack of their games.
Yeah,
so we've got a lot of them here, but this is their newest title. Sorry to interrupt you.
So it's called 4 Core corner detective, and you actually have all these different cards that have a secret number sequence underneath, and that's what you're trying to figure out. You're figuring out that number sequence, and the way you're trying to figure it out is by touching the edges of the cards and seeing how sharp or rounded that edge is. So you go, oh, this feels like a 3, or maybe this is an 8. So you can start the angle, of that edge. So it's really a tactile sort of game.
Can I tell the story of this?
Yes, please.
So this game, of course, was one of the biggest releases for it then, and so they had a demonstrator at the front of their booth who was passing out these cards and explaining.
You can have a play with it a bit.
Yeah, and explaining the rules. But the issue was he was explaining it in Japanese, and my Japanese was not good enough to follow along, and so he just hands us these cards, and he's like, kind of saying, so this corner's a 3 and this corner's an 8. And I said, but what are we feeling for? Is it like the thickness? And he's like, yes, it's the thickness. So it kind of got a bit lost in translation. And so we're feeling these cards and we assume that it's the thickness of the
GSM
card.
At that point, which I was like, how do they even do that? How do you change the GSM?
On the corners of the cards. Yeah. And so we must have stood there for 15 minutes trying to work out why we could not tell the difference between the cards. Yeah. And we're like, we are so bad at this game.
I had moments where I was even talking to my sandwich. I was like, this does feel thicker. And then I was like, no, I've lost it again. Nothing to do with it.
And then when we realised it was the corners, it was way later.
Yeah.
We're
so,
like, no. We still weren't good at it, but...
That'll be interesting, though. That'll be an interesting one to check out.
Yeah, but what a strange concept for a game. Shaving the corners of the cards.
When you publish something like this, to print all those cards with such different, slight angles, that's a tricky sort of... Yeah,
anyway, go. So they also gave us a copy of Tokyo Highway, which is the dexterity game. This is the new edition, which I believe is just coming out of Kickstarter, which is Rainbow City edition. You know what? I have never played Tokyo Highway, and I'm pretty excited to play it. Dexterity is not really in our wheelhouse.
No, not usually.
Yeah, not usually. But games like this go great over the holiday season. So I want to play this with a family at Christmas. I want to take it to work. And it just looks super cute. You've got little tweezers and you're placing little cars on highway roads.
But you're also creating the highway, which we actually got to drive around this time. We rented a car and drove around. And those the highway where you bypass Tokyo, it's very reminiscent to because they can get really, really complicated to what you end up kind of creating with all the little cars as well. So that's cool.
Yeah, and do you want to go through the other games?
Yes, so the other ones this one is called...
Here Comes the Dog.
Here Comes the Dog. So Here Comes the Dog is all about it's interesting because you have this sort of central beautiful wooden pieces, the central bonfire, and then you have a combination of you kind of different tribes, and you have the dogs, the kind of wild dogs, which I imagine are going to be the wolves essentially sitting outside. And you're going to be rolling dice, but it's really just these kind of villager tokens to determine what type of things you have to remove from the fire. So it can either be meat, so you can be taking kind of all the meat out of the fire where you're cooking it, or charcoal. So the idea is if you manage to get all the meat out before the charcoal runs out, then you get to essentially get the meat to the dogs and tame the dogs. If the charcoal runs out first, then it's lights out. The dogs are going to come in and attack the village because they just want the meat that's left over. But the interesting thing with this is, as you figure out that we now know that it's going to be one or the other, you either have to rush to grab there's some of the dogs have been domesticated in the different inside the village. So it's one of those once you figure out, you rush to grab the particular thing. If you get it wrong, then you're penalized. So it's sort of a little bit cooperative at one stage because you're all kind of vying for the same thing, and then it's just chaos. So I think it'll be...
Sounds dangerous.
It does sound dangerous. So I'll be home ruling some of the reaching out. Yeah.
A Maggie house rule, a taco, cat, goat, cheese, pizza.
Correct. To avoid any sort of
breaking of fingers.
Correct. But it does look really beautiful. It does look the actual
beautiful.
Wooden pieces. There's several of those that are kind of wooden pieces. Yeah.
Maybe talk about the Fun Bricks series all at once, because some people might be aware of this, especially these three. These three are a bit older, I think, and this one came out at this Tokyo Game Market. So
So this one, I don't actually know the names.
I've heard really great things about this stick collection.
Yeah, but I don't know the names of the individual one. Oh yeah, so it's Stick Collection. This is Wonder Bowling and Bonfire Party.
Yeah.
So you know more about the stick one because it's essentially you are trying to put all the sticks in your hand, and then as you place them down, you realize essentially who has the long stick.
Yeah. But someone told me that was really fun. It might have been the Brothers Murph, I think, who told me that this particular one was a lot of fun. So I'm really looking forward to trying that one.
Yeah, so that's that one. Then we have, this is the Wonder Bowling, which is, as the name suggests, it's like a bowling type, dexterity-ish type game. And then there is the Bonfire one, which you're actually, this is actually cooperative. So you're trying to kind of guess, you have two different types of color matches, and you're kind of secretly deciding how many of them you're putting in your hand of each color, and then you're trying to kind of match so that they're even, the two colors, so that you can start leveling up the fire before you run out of matches, essentially. So yeah, that's those ones.
And tell me about Gravity 3. There's like 3 Gravity, like weight-based games.
Yes. So you have these little discs that have different weights on them, and there's, I believe there's actually several different games within this. So there's a couple of different games all about kind of, the sort of
estimating weights,
there's
memory with
memory
weights,
and gravity, comparison and gravity, and then doubt and gravity.
Yeah, but this was the new title, but we didn't get, it was quite busy at their booth, so we didn't get an opportunity to play it, but looking forward.
Well, they're very tactile games, so you can sort of imagine at a booth, everyone's sort of like physically wanting to play with them and check them out. Yeah.
All right, let's keep going. We've got so many to get through. We've got Mole Poker. Mole Poker is
cute.
So cute. It's the follow-up to Cat Poker and Dog Poker. Cat Poker was a pretty simple game. I haven't played, we own Dog Poker, but I haven't played it. But we have played Cat Poker, and then it became Panda Panda through All Play Games in their small box series. So we played that in a couple of different iterations, but Mole Poker was the new one that I believe actually came out at Tokyo Game Market. And this one, it's essentially trying to get the best poker hand by drawing from different decks that are in the center of the table that have different distributions of cards in them, that you kind of know from the back of the card what it might be. But this is so simple. I think this game, how long does it play? It plays in 15 minutes.
15 minutes, 2 to 5
because
players.
all you do is draw one card at a time until you have 5 cards, and you turn them over and reveal, and whoever has the best poker hand wins. Now, the only twist to this is the first card you take, you look at secretly, and nobody knows what it is. The next 3 cards that you take are public information. So everyone can see the 3 cards that you have in the center. And then the 5th card is also secret. And then, of course, you reveal. So I think it's the 1st and the 5th card that nobody knows what they are, but the middle ones you do. And you get to
you just said the opposite. I thought you said the first and the last. So first and last are public?
Secret. No, first and last are secret.
Are secret. The ones in the middle,
I think so. Okay. It doesn't make sense to have the last one secret because you're about to reveal it. So maybe I misread that. But essentially, some are secret, some are not.
That makes sense because then you're going to be like, oh, well, maybe I'll go for this deck. Because I can see, I get a bit of a guess of what might be happening around the table.
That's right. So you might think, okay, that person's likely to win, so I'm going to risk more and try and get a better hand.
All right.
So that is Mole Poker. Sounds cute.
That's art by Saibepu, I think.
It is, yes.
Cute, super cute.
We got to meet Saibepu.
We did.
How exciting is that? Because she illustrates like everything.
So many amazing illustrated. And some of them are really different.
Actually,
as well.
Since we're talking about her, why don't you show the really cool thing that we picked up, which is Canasta.
So this was one that
that crazy new game.
So Canasta. So it's essentially 2 standard. I think it's like 2 standard decks of cards
to play Canasta
with. But they're 2 standard decks of cards, so you can play anything else with them. But they're illustrated by Saibepu.
But it does have the Canasta actions on the special cards.
Right.
So
yeah.
But it really, we haven't played Canasta in a long time. I'd like to play it again because I just want to refresh. But
we went through a stage where we played a bit of it.
Yeah, and when I was younger, my mum loved Canasta, so we played a ton of it. So I want to get back into it, and what better way way to do it than with side
really gorgeous, little cards. So yeah, you're right. It's got actually like 5 stop, 20 wild. Yeah, so that's cool. All right. So
Sorry,
it's a canasta.
I distracted you.
That's fine.
I'll
go into another one. This is one that I don't even know what it's called. I'll have to put the translation on the screen. This is one that has beautiful art. So all these cards that actually, it was actually Daniel Newman who recommended this one when we were like going around and picking up different bits and pieces, and we were like, so we bumped into him, and he was like, oh, and we were like, what are you picking up? And he's like, well, this is one that's on my radar. I have no idea what it's about, but I just love the artwork. I'm like, okay, let's go check it out.
But he said he'd also, he'd read the rule books of everything that he'd picked up, so he couldn't quite remember what was about, but because he bought it and he recommended it, we're like, okay, well,
but I think it was very like artwork driven as well.
But he is also like, obviously has designed so many trick-taking games, so we're like, well, we're going to copy whatever you've bought.
So it does have like this beautiful artwork. And so my understanding of it, like as I was trying to sort of decipher the rules, is you have these different, like 2 different suits. It's kind of yin and yang. And then there's like some of the cards are like a talisman, and then you have these other cards. But essentially the thing with this is you have cards that as you're playing them, they have different actions on them. So we're going to have to figure out how, like, written on them. And they're written, obviously, in Japanese. So we're going to have to figure out...
We'll just have to learn those words.
Yeah, like the full actions. Or put, like, a little translation along with them. But, yeah, it kind of comes with this, like, really beautiful productions. Got this, like, wooden little token and this sort of cloth little thing. So... Don't know what it's called. It's on the screen. I'm sure I'll put it there. That's that one.
All right, I'm going to talk about Call of Yeti. So definitely, like, it's quite hard to research these games, but this was one that people were talking about and, people were picking up. And so I was like, yeah, sounds kind of interesting. And then when I read the rule book after buying it, I was like, now I'm even more intrigued. So Call of Yeti has a fairly basic kind of must-follow trick-taking rule set. But what's interesting is at the beginning of your hand, you have to bid on how many tricks you're going to win, pretty standard, but you do so with cards out of your hand. So if you think you're going to win 1 trick, well then 1 card comes out of your hand and you use that for your bid. But if you think you're going to win 5 tricks, then you have to remove 5 cards out of your hand to make that bid, thereby leaving you with a smaller hand in order to win a larger number of tricks. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a good, interesting balance.
Yeah. The second thing is that there are these cards in there that have a spilled cup of coffee on them. What that has to do with the Yeti, I'm not sure, but I don't really know Yeti lore.
Yeah.
But anyway, there's a spilled cup of coffee on this card. And this card is interesting because it's essentially a card that will always lose a trick. So if you play it out of your hand, you're definitely going to lose that trick. But the person who wins that card has to add it to their bid. So then they have one more trick that they need to win in order to get their bid correct. So that, again, is a really nice interactive element that, I really enjoy that element of trick-taking.
I really like the artwork of it.
Oh, this one?
Like the wacky Yeti, and the cards look kind of cool as well.
Yeah, but it seems really interactive, so I'm keen to try this. It's called Call of Yeti.
Nice. Well, this one is actually by Daniel Newman. I actually left a little sticky note on it. But it's Gachapon Trick. So Gachapon being like those machines where you like put the coin and then you don't know which of the different things in the set, usually little toys or figurines in the set you're gonna get. So it's a bit like which one will I get? And then you're usually trying to collect the set. So in this one, you're going to be, there's money. So we all start with like a certain money allocated because you're gonna have to pay for these things that you wanna collect. As you're playing, if you win this is my understanding, if you win the trick, you get to purchase essentially one of the toys that is part of the trick to essentially eventually create a set collection with that. And so there's this balance of managing your money as well, because you don't want to obviously like run out of money. If you run out of money, then if I won the trick, then the next person sort of in the hierarchy would get to be the one purchasing. So yeah, there's this 2 elements of the trick taking plus the money management, plus then the set collection that you're trying to construct. So yeah, that's a really interesting one.
Super cute theme. I'm so excited about this one. We lined up, and then when we got to the front of the line, went to buy one, and they said reservations only, and they had sold out on any other copies, and I was so sad. And then this is the moment where I turned around and I was like, oh, there's Daniel Newman, the designer, was standing behind us. I was like, you don't happen to have a extra copy somewhere that we could buy? And he's like, you know what? I kept one in my backpack in case someone wanted to buy it, and so we bought it from him. He sold it to us, and I was very happy. And so thank you, Daniel, for allowing, because that is a great theme.
Gachapon Trick.
Great theme.
Yeah.
So excited by that.
Saibepu art as well.
The next one is Tornei, which is Tornei. I think it's Tornei. But this designer is actually the designer, quite a well-known Japanese designer. If you know games like Perfumery, if you know games like Aqua Garden, not really known for trick taking necessarily, but this I think this is their first design in trick taking. And this game is really interesting because, from what I know of it, instead of bidding for the number of tricks that you're going to win, every time you play into a trick, you are bidding on the ranking of your card in that trick. And that's all I know.
Okay.
But that's enough of a twist that I was like, sounds interesting, I'll buy it.
Maybe all we need to know. Yeah.
That's the thing with these games, is like, because trick taking, you can kind of get the concept of it pretty quickly. Is it must follow or not? That kind of thing. You know, can you shoot the moon or not? And then it's like, oh, what's the twist? Okay, that sounds interesting. I'll give it a go.
Well, this is another one that, like, I'm a bit fuzzy on the rules. So it's a Merchant of Goldfish. So it's really beautiful cards. And essentially it's one of those games where you can actually swap cards with the market in the middle. That is probably as much as I know about.
I mean, it's by Hisashi Hayashi, and isn't that all you need to know?
Yeah. So it's like, okay, it's probably going to be clever. Like, it's going to have some kind of clever things. But yeah, it didn't have the English rule book, so I was kind of struggling to get a sense for what it is. But it was so cute.
It is really beautiful. Yeah. That's really beautiful. And here's another game. This is called Trick Shot, another trick-taking game. Now, there's a game that we talk about quite a bit, a game that we don't own, which is the roulette-taking game, which is a game that is all based on, well, essentially it is roulette, but playing with tricks in order to place bets. That game has not been available for a long time, but we met the designer who also happened to have this come out at Tokyo Game Market, Trick Shot, which is a trick-taking game based on the game of billiards, of pool. Yeah. And so in this game, you are essentially doing what you do in a game of pool. Every player is going to choose whether they are the stripes or the solid balls. And then as you play, when you win tricks, you get to take these ball tokens that somehow score. And that's all I know. Okay. But I think every suit has quite a different distribution of cards. Right. So I don't know, because the roulette one was really clever, and some of his other games are quite layered. So yeah,
roulette one, because the roulette one's like, it's actual
and very thematic
roulette.
Very
so many elements were captured with that. So
that's Trick Shots.
What else? I've got this one, which is Bitcoin, which is both. So it's kind of Bitcoin. So because it is technically, I think the different suits are meant to represent different like cryptocurrencies, and you're trying to sort of offload at the right time because one of them is about to like kind of crash. But you're also halfway through as you're playing, that's at the point where you're going to bid for how many. It's still sort of trick taking, how many tricks you're going to win. And the interesting thing about it is you only get to, I believe, score if you hit exactly your bid. The other thing is, I believe those cards stay there. So in subsequent rounds, that being able to hit your bid becomes harder, because I think you're then having to match for all of the ones that you've kind of committed to in the past.
So in the early stages of the round, you want to only commit to a few bids.
Yeah, that's my understanding. Otherwise you're really kind of putting yourself in a tricky corner.
Tricky.
Yeah, very tricky. So that's Bitcoin.
The next one I have is Six Forces. Now, before I get into Six Forces, this was one of the hottest games at Tokyo Game Market because it is by Taiki Shinzawa. who is the designer of Inflation, as well as Charms, as well as a whole host of other trick-taking games. So, you know, very famous. But Six Bosses was another one that was reservation only. It was the first booth I went to and it was sold out. But we had made a friend in a coffee shop.
Yes.
We were staying in Akihabara and we met a friend there who happened to know the channel, Tyler, and he was lovely. And we ended up traveling all the way to Tokyo Game Market with him. He was probably not anticipating that. Then he was like, "Oh, there's ThinkerThemer. Let's meet. I'll meet ThinkerThemer." And then, oh wow, I can't get away from them.
Yeah,
and
I can't
now
get rid of them now.
Sitting in line with them for hours. Anyway. He very kindly gave us a copy of Six Forces because he had picked up 2 copies, and so he allowed us to buy it from him. So thank you, Tyler, for allowing us to get it.
Way more prepared than we
way more prepared.
were. Yeah.
But Six Forces is essentially every player has a range of, I think they call them trump cards, but essentially what they are is the scoring condition for that trick. And when you lead, you are going to choose one of those scoring conditions to basically activate for that trick. So it might be like, something to do with the highest card, or it might be a particular colored suit. And so when you play that, it's like a one and done, I think, so you can only use that card one time. And then you're also, everybody else has the same cards too. So everybody's going to play those at least once, I believe. Okay. So, but that's kind of an interesting take on it, that instead of following one set of rules, it's like this fluctuating rule set, and you've got to be careful about how you manage your hand in order to deal with that. So I'm intrigued to play Six Forces.
Nice. Okay, the next game is one called Silence or Music, which is the other one by the same designer as the one that I didn't remember the name of, and the art is very obviously reminiscent. But this is a shedding game where as you're shedding, if you're not able to, obviously if you have to pass, you get this little silent token, which then means that at the end of that hand, you're going to have to pick up one of the cards that was sort of discarded or that was kind of played that round. Because it's a shedding one, obviously you may not want to be picking up too many, but at the same time, you might be picking up stuff that'll make it easier for you to like shed in subsequent hands. The other interesting thing is if you manage to be the last person to play a card, then you're rewarded by being able to get rid of an extra card or cards. So it has to either be your lowest card or your lowest card in a sequence, for example. So you might be able to get rid of multiple cards. So it's a way of kind of speeding up the shedding part. But if you had to pass in a sort of like one of the previous rounds, or then you're having to pick up at the end, which means that you don't get to fully sort of shed. So yeah, that's an interesting little twist. I was mostly just attracted to it because of the beautiful art on the cover, which then I didn't realize is just like, that's just the one piece of art that is in the back of the cards. But the cards are just numbers. There's nothing else.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, there's only one?
That's just that image. Yeah.
That's so beautiful.
The cards are fine, but it's just like, that's the back of the cards.
The old bait and switch.
But I'm intrigued to see how the gameplay feels.
I'm going to talk, we've been going for a while, so I'm going to talk about 2 games at once. I'm going to talk about this one.
4 games at once.
No, because they're similar in theme. Yeah. Because they lack anything. Fractal Tricks is one of them, and the other one is Imwah. Now, these are both 2-player only trick-taking games, and they are by completely different designers, but they are both very abstract games where you are trying to win tricks in order to influence the game state. Now, this Fractal Tricks, how cool is the tube that it comes in? Everyone watching is like, not for storage, not for storage.
I'm already thinking, it's like, where am I going to put that?
Where am I going to put that?
Where is that going to go?
It is a really cool tube, and inside it has a cloth mat, and the cloth mat has a very abstract looking puzzle on it. And as you're playing tricks, you are trying to win tricks in order to get these tokens with different values on them and place them out into the corners, which are a bit like this area majority game. Okay. That's what I remember of it, and I also remember thinking Maggie is not going to enjoy this game.
It's not going to be my kind of thing.
I'm going to have to find a friend to play that with.
Yeah.
The next one that I'm going to have to find a friend to play with is this game Imwah. Now, this is by Patrick Engo, who is the designer of the Bug Council of Backyardia, which of course is a fantastic Mancala like style trick taking game. But this time he has created a game of chess where you are also playing tricks. And so in your hand, and when you're playing tricks, if you win, you get to do a certain type of action, and if you lose, then you get to do something else. I can't quite remember.
I think it determines,
but I think it allows you to change the position. If you lose the trick, you're allowed to move the position of the pawns, because when you win the trick, the cards are going to dictate the way the pawns move. So rather than having a game of chess where every player piece dictates the way it moves, these are all pawns, but they move differently depending on the card that you win with. I think that's
and
it.
I believe also depending on the card, it determines which the suit of the card determines like which pawns may be moved. Yeah.
And so look, Maggie likes trick taking but hates chess.
I'm not a big chess fan at all. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
but
this is again probably not one that I'll be playing.
Again, I have other people in my life, luckily, who like abstract games, and I just the combination intrigues me. So I really am looking forward to playing that.
There you go. Well, this one is called We Need to Talk, which is
we went from the most abstract to probably one of the most
thematic. Yeah. So this is about relationships and breakups. So this is by Brendan Fong, who actually we sort of came across, and this is his game, and so I was like, I want you to have a copy of my game.
He didn't have a booth. I don't think he was just wandering around, and he was hoping that we would be there, which is so nice. Yeah. He had a copy for us.
So, but it's super quirky. So We Need to Talk is both about. So it's one of those games. My understanding of it so far is one of those games where you're having multiple phases. The first phase, you're actually collecting cards, so it's like as you're playing tricks, you're kind of collecting the memories of that relationship, and then obviously the breakup happens when then you're having to shed. It's like you then wanting to get rid of all of those memories. And I remember at the time I said, it's kind of like, what is it?
Eternal
Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. And he's like, that's what everyone says. Yeah, that's exactly the kind of
erasing the memories.
Yeah, let's just want to get rid of all of those memories. So yeah, I think it's such a quirky concept. He did the art himself, and even the art, I was like, I remember at one point I did some drawings when I was trying to make a little album cover for a couple of songs that I had written, and that was exactly the kind of stick figure that I did. I was like, I even looked it up. I was like, look, Amy's we're art synced somehow, because I hadn't seen that before. Maybe it's just, I don't know. So yeah, I'm intrigued to check it out, because I think it's going to be quite amusingly thematic. We Need to Talk.
We Need to Talk. Yeah. I love the title of it too. Yeah. It's so good. The next little game is a game called Gear by Takashi Saito, who had two games before this, and I keep forgetting what the first one is. Open is the first one, and then Loop was the second. And Loop is a game that I've been wanting to pick up, and we did see it in stores while we were over there, and every time I just hesitated just enough that we didn't end up with a copy. But we did get Gear, which is the latest one. And in this game, again, trick taking, but the most interesting hook about this is that at the start, the hands are going to be on the table, and you have to bid for the hand that you want. So you get given these cards that have gears on them, and you're going to be, on your turn, playing the gear out in front of the hand that you want. And if someone outbids you, you get your gears back, and then you've got to try and get a different hand of cards that you want. And then you of course, pick up those cards and play it out like trick taking. So, interesting. That's all I have to say about that. I don't know much more. I don't know how it scores or anything, but I think it's going to be interesting.
All right. What is this one? So this is Trickarus. So like Icarus, the Greek mythology, where you're going to be playing playing tricks, and as you're winning, you're going to be going up this, essentially flying higher and higher and higher. And obviously, as the myth goes, you don't want to fly too close to the sun, because you're going to get, your wings are going to burn and you're going to come crashing down. So the way this plays is you have, in terms of the suits, you have daytime and you have nighttime. And the suits, one of the suits is the sun, the other one's the moon, and I think the other one's rain and something else, wind. And so what happens is during the daytime, so if it's a daytime kind of round, the sun suit is going to be trump, which makes sense. During the nighttime round, which the what determines day or night could switch halfway through a hand. Whenever someone plays a 5, it gets switched. So all of a sudden it's like, oh, wait a second, I thought the state of the game was going to be 1, and all of a sudden it's a different one. So yeah, during the night round, the moon is going to be trump. So again, the interesting thing is you have this, like, you kind of putting these cards together that are the tracker of how high you're going, which is both the points, but also, you know, getting up to the sun. And if you win, each spot can only take one person. So if there's someone in front of you, you're gonna have to like skip and jump them. So you might end up going further up. If you touch the sun, it'll force you down to the lowest point. So one spot below the lowest player. So you really come crashing down. And so as that kind of happens, yeah, obviously at the end of the game, it's going to be whoever ends up highest. But yeah, it's super thematic in terms of like, yeah, the mythology. And so yeah, intrigued to check this out. We actually, this is actually a review copy that we got by Bajir, who's the designer. Bajir Cannon is the surname. And yeah, we were meant to pick this up, and we kind of...
Look, he was so gracious and lovely, because he actually, you know, as I mentioned, like, well, if you watch the other video, we didn't really plan to go to Game Market, and we don't plan meetings with anyone. We're just there to buy games. And really it was just Iten that, you know, had reached out as a publisher. But Bajir had actually emailed us and said, is there any on the off chance that you're coming to Tokyo Game Market, I'd love to meet with you. And so it was, and tell you about my game as first time designer. And so it's like, yeah, of course, we'll come by. And then we just got so caught up. And by the end of the show, we were so tired that we completely forgot to swing by, left the show, and then realized, and then of course, he was busy packing up and dealing with things. And so we decided to just hang out at an arcade nearby and hope that we could catch up with him after the show. And then thankfully he wrote back and was very gracious, came and met with us and gave us a copy of his game. And to which, you know, Maggie was so excited to hear about the theme.
So really
very thematic.
Yeah, really keen to check it out. So that's Trickarus.
Yes. And the next one is a game called Petir. This is a game about, actually, so this is the next game in this series by the same designer. So they have done Vivo most recently, and Salty before that. Clearly, we have purchased both of these games, and we have not played either of them. So
share of opportunity.
Of course, I bought the next one because that's what you do. But anyway.
The set.
The next one is about cats and dogs who are scared of lightning. And so the whole game is about trying to avoid getting struck by lightning. And so when you play different tricks, there's like a monitor of where the lightning is. And it's something to do with everyone's playing cards, and it's the person whose distance is closest to that lightning strike is going to get struck by lightning. And then you're collecting cards that are going to be worth negative points at the end of the game. So that's kind of a vague, so far what I've learned about the game, but it seems really cute. The cards are really cute.
They
They're
do
like
look cute,
really scared dogs and cats, but yeah, looks really cute.
Well, the next one is called 50/50, which again, I haven't really had a chance to open it up and try and crack what the rules are all about. I was intrigued because it sounded a little bit like Six Nimit, where you're actually kind of trying to hit a particular, like, time things right, so that you don't end up taking penalty cards. So it's a very, very similar... I
didn't even see you buy this one.
It was...
I don't know when that happened.
Well,
it was actually by European designers.
Yeah, Stefan and Florian Bendorf. Yeah, I haven't checked if...
it's German, maybe.
Yeah, there's anything else. Yeah, I think it's German, because it's like the two... It's got German rules and English rules. But yeah, it's one of those, like, making sure that you're timing your number in a sequence in a particular way. Otherwise, you can get stuck with, like, taking a whole bunch of cards.
Oh, sounds fun.
Yeah, so that's 50/50.
Nice. Well, speaking of, European designers, Friedman Freeze' game Fission is another game that was in our most anticipated of Essenspiel, but we could not go to Essenspiel this year. And so I was so excited to see it for sale. This is the Japanese edition, but the cards are language independent. So this is it's kind of got a little bit of an element of deck building where you are playing tricks to win fish, and then the fish go into your deck to make your deck stronger, or to make your hand stronger the next round. So I am really looking forward to playing this. We put it on our list, and a couple of people have followed up and said that they did buy it at Essen and that it was fun. So I'm excited to try it.
I love deck building, so it's one of those things where...
And you love Friedman Freeze.
I do love Friedman Freeze games. I really enjoy those. So this was probably my most anticipated for this show, which is the Yellow House, and it's all about it's Vincent van Gogh and Gauguin. And this was based on Van Gogh had this the house that he had this dream of like creating having this like space for all these artists to live in and sort of create art in. And so one of the people that he managed to bring on board was Gauguin, which he was really excited about. But it turned out that they actually didn't really get along. Like they ended up having lots of fights, as emotional personalities do with like strong opinions. And so this game is essentially it's a 2-player only. One player is playing as Van Gogh, the other one is Gauguin, and you are going to be playing different cards to have different arguments, essentially, to see who will win out, so who will have the final word. So as you're playing this, you have all these different sort of tokens that represent the different, essentially like the value of the cards of the suits that you're playing, because the way that this sort of plays is as you're playing, you can't repeat the same suit that the other person has played, but you have to play a suit that is of higher value, or you have to elevate one of the lower value suits by playing like multiples, essentially paying additional of that. And it's shedding. You're trying to sort of be the first person to get rid of all of the cards. It's a beautiful, beautiful production. I love the artwork of it, and
this is the only game of all of them that we've played. Because this was very anticipated. It had released at Essen. It is by Korean designer Ji-Neil from Mandu Games, who also has had many great games. So like Jekyll versus Hyde, Ptolemy is one that we love, a recent game. So and because it's 2-player only, we took it on our travels with us and had a game of it. And that it is a really interesting dynamic, the way that you're paying to increase the power of a suit, essentially. I was terrible at it. I lost every single game. Maggie beat me every single time.
It's a rare occurrence for me to like.
And I was like, again, let's go again. But no.
And I'm like, really? Okay.
Yeah, you're like, okay, beat you again. But you are quite good at shedding games.
Sometimes,
much better than me. Anyway, so, we played this a lot, but, I liked it. I didn't love it. I actually prefer some of his other titles a bit more. It's kind of like middling for me.
Yeah, I think for a shedding game, it doesn't feel, I didn't get the satisfaction of like a shedding satisfaction, which I find interesting. It was after this, I was like, actually, it's more like the number sequencing and that I enjoy when I'm doing those. The cards don't really have any numbers. It's just like the suit, so it's just the color essentially. But yeah, it's almost like it didn't feel like I had as much. I don't know if like not agency. It's just there were fewer levers to sort of pull.
Yeah.
So it was okay.
It's interesting.
It's interesting. I love the production of it more than I love the gameplay.
I love how every game of his has some unique mechanic in it. Like just so thoughtful and really interesting. So I always enjoy checking out.
Yeah. So that was the Yellow House.
The next one is a little version of Yokai Septet.
Oh yeah.
And that's it, because we've
covered it, haven't we?
We have covered it, and we love Yokai Septet. And the mini version is just about to deliver. And we saw Dan from Ninja Star, who knows we love this game, and he gave us a copy of the Pocket Edition. So if you're looking for a tiny version of Yokai Septet, keep your eyes out for this.
That's one of my favorite games to like take to like a restaurant, and like while we're waiting for things to be delivered, like you can just very easy to just like play it fairly quickly. And doesn't take too much table space.
You know who introduced us to this game? Monique and Naveen.
That's true.
They love this game, and we love them.
We do. All right, this is one of my most random ones. What's it called? What was this one called? It's called. Let me see if I can read the Japanese. What is it? Comeamaru. Which is about. Okay. I'll be honest, the thing that drew me to this is the wackiness of the artwork. It's just this like, it's about trying to offload rice when you've bought too much rice. So you're like, uh-oh, I've overbought rice, and now I need to like, I think it may actually be based on something that has happened in Japan of then, when there's been like overstocking, and then you're like offloading it by mixing it in with other rice to then like kind of get rid of it. So interestingly, the company that does this does a lot of 18xx games, but this is, so I was like, this is like such a wacky cover because it's like a combination of illustration and like stock footage.
Do you know what's really funny about this is Jay from Cardboard East, I had watched his anticipated videos of the show, and he had said the exact same thing. So when Maggie said it to me, I assumed she had watched his video. And then she said it to me again. She's just like, the artwork is like this combination of, and I said, basically use the exact words as Jay. And I was like, oh, did you watch Jay's video? And she's like, what? Oh, did Jay think that?
Yeah, it was a hive mind moment.
Yeah,
again,
it really was. And it's like such an obscure title that I was like, how weird that you both picked out this game.
For the same reason.
For the same reason.
Anyway, so I was like, it's really cheap as well. It's like 500 yen. So it's like more like $5 Australian, which is what, like $3 US or something like that. And so when I went in there, and like they had like all of these like, and I thought these were the rules. And so like I gave my 500 yen. They're like, okay, here you go. I'm like,
that's the game.
That's the game.
But there are quite a few games like this at the show, which is essentially a print and play that has been printed for you.
Yeah, but it's just like paper. So, but interestingly with this one, it's like the cards are like, so the cards are in here. Let me see if I can show you. And they've been pre-perforated. So actually you can just like kind of punch them out. But yeah, I was so surprised. I was like, this is interesting. So yeah, I'm intrigued to play that one. Comeamaru. So I'll let you know how I go with my first
print and play, perforated print and play.
Wacky stock image cover.
This one is a game that did not come out at this game market. It came out a little while ago. Fairy Concerto. And this game, interestingly, was for sale brand new. And I bought this copy from Book Off that was there, which is a secondhand books store, which also stocks board games. And they have a booth there, and they were selling the secondhand. And I paid just about the exact same price to get an old copy of it, because they were giving out free bags and we really needed a bag.
We were desperate for bags.
You can hear all about that in the other
point.
video.
Yeah, by the time we bought this game.
But I'd seen this before, and what really drew me into this game is that there's like a little orchestra and there's all fairy meeples.
It's pretty cute.
And you are placing them out into like this little orchestra area, and it just looks really cute. But when I was reading the rules, it is quite simple. So I'm intrigued to see if the scoring conditions make it meaty enough to stay in our collection, because it's essentially a Sushi Go style draft, or Seven Wonders kind of draft, where you are taking one and passing them along, and then you are trying to build up your orchestra to meet certain goals. And I think there might be individual goals and public goals, and that's as much as I know. But I thought, we needed a bag, so
we were desperate for a bag, and they had this really
beautiful.
That's how
desperate we were.
It's a calico. Is that what you call it? Like those cloth bags that was going to be free with. At first, we thought that they were just going to give it to us free, and then it's like, so what are you buying?
It's free.
And we're like, we'll be right back.
Be right back. I have clocked a game that I do need to buy.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the last two, somehow we didn't divide these equally.
I thought you only had one left. No, there's more. But wait.
Really, these were both art purchases, but I, have a feeling they're going to be also quite good. The first one is Deep Sea Mines, which is Saibepu art again. There is no information about this game online. I was really surprised because it was also one of the games that most people were talking about going to purchase. And it has like quite a nice production value. Obviously, it's got Saibepu art. It's got these little cubes, and the cards are really lovely.
Cards are cool. Yeah.
But anyway, what you're doing in this game is you are, I think, trying to work out whether you want to save your most powerful cards to use them in the second part of the game, or to use them early on, because when you win tricks, you are deep sea mining and you are collecting minerals, and the minerals are going to be worth points at the end of the game. But every time you collect a mineral, there's something that happens where another type of resource is going to go out onto an island, and towards the end of the game, you're going to be battling over the ones that are left on the island.
Okay.
So there's some kind of like resource exchange going on, and I think there's also decisions you need to make about, you know, whether you use powerful things up front or save them towards the end. And that's all I know.
Deep sea mines. Okay.
That is deep sea mines. And now this is going to be a weird jump edit because we were down to the last game and then our fire alarm went off. So we had to walk down a lot of stairs. Boston was freaking out, and we've been outside walking Boston around until it was safe to come back into our
evacuated
building.
for a while. It turns out it was a false alarm, which
False
is
alarm.
probably for the best. Definitely for the best. So yeah,
Always best to get out
Exactly.
and then, you know, work it out later.
Exactly.
So we quickly just grabbed everything. I was like, maybe we should just record the last game, and Maggie correctly said,
absolutely
maybe
not.
we should leave.
We need to leave.
Good
when
point.
You have a beep, beep, evacuate now. You probably should listen to the
You
advice.
should listen to the advice. Anyway, the last game is Snail Antennae, which, is that the plural of antenna? I'm not sure.
I don't know.
Maybe.
I think it's
Antennae.
antennae.
Snail. Anyway, this game has gorgeous art, but I'd heard about it and the theme really was like, it put it on my radar. And then when I saw the art, I was like,
You're
I
like,
have
sold.
to grab this game.
It's pretty quirky.
And
yeah,
lots
like
of people were mentioning this game because they're like, have you seen the art of the snail game? It's really beautiful. But anyway, this game is really quite interesting because from what I understand in my quick read of the rules, you, as the lead player, you play a single card down, and then that's going to dictate kind of what you should play. And so you would play like a red card, and then you're going to play a pair of cards out of your hand. Now the pair of cards can be mixed colors, but if you're saying it's going to be red, I think it's better for you to play two reds. And then the two red cards have two numbers on them, of course, which then create a single number. So a 5 and a 3, you know, 53, or maybe it would have to be 35. I don't know. But anyway, it adds up to a particular number. And then depending on whether everybody plays on suit or everybody plays mixed, like different suits into the trick, that changes how it scores and who wins.
Okay.
That's as much as I've got so far. But anyway, the artwork is really beautiful. I'm excited to check that out. This is one of those games that I wonder if it will pop up anywhere else other than at Tokyo Game Market. And that is why you go to Tokyo Game Market, because you discover all of these games. We're taking you through like an hour worth of games, of which we'd played one. So, you know, some of these are going to be great, I'm sure. Some of them are probably going to just be not so great.
Yeah.
But that's all part of the fun. We hope you've found some things that you are excited by.
And we'll let you know if we find any gems in here. I'm sure we'll cover them, or they'll
on
end
the
up in a
channel.
list somewhere. And sometimes they actually get turned into, like, they get picked up by other publishers or distributors, so they become stuff that's more widely released. So
Exactly. So if you want to hear more about Tokyo Game Market, again, click on the link below in the description and we'll take you through a bit of our travels in Japan. But otherwise, if you liked this video, please like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and we'll be back with more board game content soon. But otherwise, bye for now.
Bye.